Hey guys, I have come again to take another reaction video. The name of my today's reaction video is 10 people who survived your worst nightmares. There are certain sets of circumstances, should you ever find yourself in them, where the most reasonable courses of action is to reflect on what a good life it's been and prepare to check out. We all like to hear nail-biting stories of those who beat the odds and managed to overcome certain death. But these stories are of course highly statistically unlucky. That's why it is called certain death. As for the following people, they decided that statistics be damned. They weren't going to be won. This average every day people found themselves in situations that are normally only survived by waking up from the nightmare. Yet they are still with us today and with some pretty harrowing tales to tell. So let's see the video. 10 people who survived your worst nightmares.
Teresa Christian, aged 59 during the incident in 2012, accidentally locked herself inside a freezer to take shelter, where she remained for 5 days. On the 4th day, her 2 sons looked all over her apartment and called out to their mother, but to no avail. The following day, one of her sons heard her faint cry for help. The deep freezer, situated inside a closet, was then opened to find her sitting upright and conscious. The freezer's lid was open, but she was unable to move. She was hospitalized in a critical condition with a severe frostbite having taken its toll on her legs. Christian apparently crawled into the freezer to take shelter, but there was no severe weather in the area. Family members said she may have been disoriented due to her medications. After surviving the ordeal, Christian refused to discuss what happened. Michalina Lewandowska, a Polish immigrant to the UK, survived a burial attempt from the hands of her fiancé back in 2011. Describing the ordeal to a British court of the fear she felt as she lay buried in the ground, with her hands and feet tied by tape in a concealed cardboard box and slowly suffocating, she stated she prayed at the time to survive so that she could look after her young son. Her husband-to-be and an accomplice buried the mother of his child alive. He first tasered her, then tied her up before placing her into a cardboard box and burying her under 4 inches of earth and a 90-pound tree branch in the woodland. Entombed underground for half an hour, she used her engagement ring to cut the tape bounding her, after which she dug her way out. Her attackers were both sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Really strange.
Ironic, isn't it, that her fiancé buries her alive and her engagement ring saves her life. Alcides Moreno and his brother Edgar were window washers. They both worked together on Manhattan high-rise buildings for years, but in 2007, the harnesses attached to their rig detached, seeing the brothers fall 47 stories into an alleyway. Edgar died from the fall, but his brother Alcides was found conscious, sitting up. Investigators speculated that he was able to ride the platform, which in turn assisted in slowing his descent. Doctors stated he didn't hit his head or break his pelvis upon landing. Injuries he did sustain were to his spine and brain, fractured ribs, and shattered limbs.
Really peculiar.
Everyone would naturally fear a situation similar to the one depicted in Tom Hanks' Castaway. Jose Alvarenga, however, claimed he set out from Mexico in his 24-foot boat in late 2012, was blown out to sea, and survived on the open ocean for 13 months until washing ashore around 5,000 miles away in the Marshall Islands on January 30th, 2014. He reportedly survived on a diet of raw fish, turtles, small birds, sharks, and rainwater, while he resorted to drinking turtle blood and his own urine when the latter was unavailable. When he eventually swam to shore, 2 locals found him naked, clenching a knife and shouting in Spanish. David Alan Gore was a rapist and serial killer who targeted victims during late 70s and early 80s in America. Gore killed 6 women when he was active. Joined by an accomplice, they abducted their final 2 victims on July 26, 1983, 14-year-old Regan Martin and 17-year-old Lynn Elliott. Martin is the only one of Gore's victims to survive. Both were sexually assaulted after being picked up at a beach. While Gore was assaulting Martin, Elliott managed to sneak out of the house, naked and handcuffed. She was running down the driveway when Gore spotted her after hearing the door. He shot Elliott in the head in front of a 15-year-old witness. It was her murder that he was convicted of and sentenced to death in 1984. The witness alerted the police, who arrived in time to rescue Martin. In 2012, Gore was executed while his accomplice Fred Waterfield received consecutive life sentences
Indeed,
in prison.
impenetrable.
1999 saw 47-year-old Joan Murray having an experience everyone fears when diving: failure of her main parachute opening after diving over 14,500 feet. She was less than 1,000 feet from the ground when she managed to deploy her
Really
reserve
baffling
chute, but she spun out of
circumstance.
control when her parachute lost most of its air volume. She made full impact into the ground at a speed of 80 miles per hour, landing on top of a large fire ant mound. The majority of bones on her right
Absolutely
side were broken,
inexplicable.
while her teeth smashed out of her mouth during impact. She survived though,
Hugely
albeit in an
baffling
unconscious
exploit.
state. The fire ants bit her over 200 times before paramedics came to her aid. The ants, however, in all likelihood, saved her life, as the bites may have aided in Joan's survival by inducing an extreme adrenaline response. After 20 reconstructive surgeries, Joan took her 37th dive in 2002. Janice Olsen's diagnosis of cancer was one of a kind. Cancerous bone tissue developed in the middle of her pelvis. Her only chance of survival was being disassembled for
Another
doctors to treat
uncanny
the area,
matter.
after which she would essentially be put back together. She had her left leg cut off, while her right leg was detached during the operation, with no certainty of it being
Questionably
reattached.
justified.
Such a procedure had never been attempted on a living patient in history. Doctors at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota were willing to give it a shot.
Abundantly
Dr.
uncanny
Michael Yasemski,
affair.
who originated the treatment, stated that since the treatment would leave no bony continuity between her torso and her remaining leg, bone from her amputated left leg was
Questionably
used to reattach
justified.
the right leg closer to her spine in the center of her body. 2 surgeries and 28 hours later, 240 staples put Janice back together in one
Really
piece.
uncanny.
The innovative procedure has since been attempted on 3 other patients, 2 of whom died because of it. October 2011 saw Richard Moyer letting his dog Brindy out, who went into the surrounding Pennsylvania woods. Brindy returned, however, when Moyer was going back into his home. En route was a huge black bear chasing her. Seemed the bear had a beef to settle with the animal, so it broke down the door
exploit.
and entered the house looking for the dog. It found and attacked Richard instead, waking up his wife Angela. Trying to intervene, the bear got
Janet
really mad at her,
baffling.
at which point Brindy jumped onto the bear. Richard Moyer recalled what happened next. "What are you going to do? I kept my head down and just leapt into the
Commonly
bear." He
inexplicable
came out worse though, as the
circumstance.
bear mauled him by chewing on his head before it simply stopped, walked outside to the front porch, and sat down like
Really
nothing happened.
baffling.
Damage from the bear's claws was pretty bad, but nothing compared to what it did to the back of Richard's head, which required 37 staples to close. Both Richard and his wife were dispatched from the hospital by the end of the day, who returned home to their 10-year-old son, who had slept through the entire event. A series of tornadoes took course within Central America in late May 2013. A twister that tore apart the town of Moore, Oklahoma, killed 24 people. 11 days later, 9 more people died as multiple twisters continued in the state.
Perplexing
An
proceeding.
E4 tornado, which had the second most powerful rating among the twisters, was seen by husband and wife Gary
Indeed,
and Suzanne Whaley, who were driving home on the highway. While they don't recall
Indeed,
anything else that happened
impenetrable.
after, it's believed that they attempted to pull under an overpass where the twister arrived, in turn lifting their truck
Truly
and sucking them out the
perplexing affair.
windows. Suzanne was recording the twister on her phone, and incredibly continued to record throughout the entire ordeal. She could barely remember waking up on the ground with her phone in her hand. Her husband was found over 50 feet away, with numerous broken bones, but alive.
Really perplexing.
Their dog
affair.
Rocky was with them when they were sucked into the tornado, and went missing afterward. He was found 4 days later, trapped under some debris, and in stable condition. Surviving a plane crash would be a horrifying ordeal for anyone, but what about crashing into the middle of the ocean during the night? 152 passengers aboard Yemenia Flight 626 died that night, but a
Really
14-year-old
didn't
French
think
girl
it's that big.
lived to tell the tale. An Airbus A310 descended into the Indian Ocean on June 30th, 2009 at 2 a.m.
Totally
Bahia
uncanny.
Bakari found herself ejected from the plane and stayed afloat by embracing a piece of debris from the plane's fuselage. She managed to do this despite
Mightily
having no
delicate
life jacket
Albanian.
and not being a very good swimmer. She said initially there must have been survivors as she heard their voices in aftermath of the crash, but all those voices eventually faded away. She was
Really
alone as the sun
impenetrable
rose
adventure.
when at 11 a.m., 9 hours after the crash, a civilian ship that was searching for
Certainly
survivors found
perplexing.
Bakari. She was the only person the search effort found. Her mother was among the deceased, while her father wasn't aboard the
Extremely
plane.
impenetrable
Ultimately,
operation.
she endured a broken collarbone and fractured pelvis, among other injuries.
Really impenetrable. Dear viewers, if you like my reacting video, then please subscribe my channel. You can see many nice videos from my channel. So let's see.